Hello and welcome to Bespoke Unit. I'm CP and in this video I'm reviewing the Plasencia Alma del Fuego. As per usual, this review is conducted using the Bespoke Unit Cigar Formula, a quantifiable review matrix that you can either use at home for your own reviews, or if you don't have time to watch the entirety of this video, look in the description below where you'll see the final write-up, where you'll see the PDF version of this, which will give you a quick overview of the cigar and its characteristics. Furthermore, these cigars were stored in the Boveda acrylic humidor that you can see beside me as a control step. They were acclimated in there for a period of 3 weeks using 69% Boveda packs and with a Boveda butler to monitor them. Released in 2019, the Alma del Fuego, which means soul of fire in Spanish, was created by Nestor Plasencia in order to showcase the magical Nicaraguan tobacco from the volcanic island of Ometepe. Indeed, it features Ometepe tobacco that has been aged for no less than 7 years because it is believed that Ometepe tobacco merits longer aging in order to really show its full potential. It is manufactured at the Plasencia factory in Esteli and is made what appears to be, if I can remove some of the wrapper which covers the front, appears to be the accordion bunching style. It features a Nicaraguan sun-grown wrapper from the Jalapa region, and it features a double binder, which one of the binder is Ometepe and the other one has not been disclosed. Similarly, the filler features more Ometepe tobacco and other Nicaraguan tobaccos which have not been mentioned. Overall, this is a Nicaraguan puro. I personally am very fond of the Alma del Fuego, my favorite vitola being the thin Panatella Flamma, which is a 6.5 by 38, but this is the Concepcion, which is 6 by 54. As the name and the tobaccos used suggest, this is meant to be a spicy, fiery experience, but there is only one way to find out, and that is by a full review. So we'll jump first into the look and feel. It has an overall rustic appearance, which I believe is completely intentional, so it's hard not to mark it down for this because it does have a certain appeal. It has a rough, rustic and rich appearance. The roll is bumpy, there are some notable bumps, and again it seems to be part of the whole concept. The spring though is very firm. This is a box press cigar, and for it to have such an excellent spring means that there has been very good construction. It has an antique oak hue which gives off some rich oily sheens in the light, and the veins are quite coarse but in an elegant way. It's hard to explain, but this cigar has a particular charm about it, and I'm trying my best not to be subjective given that I do have an affinity for this blend. The aromas on the nose, so if you can peel away some of the tobacco, so extra wrapper has been left on the end and then folded back on the front, but if you can peel it away, you can get notes of caramel, some musky labdanum, and some vanillary olibanum. Moving on to the Prelight, so as you can see, I've given this already a slight guillotine cut above the what appears to be a triple cap. And what really struck me was a distinctive note of cardamom, and it's not even subtle. I didn't look for it. I immediately got hit by this cardamom bomb. There's also some curcuma, which adds some more spice to the bouquet, as well as some gourmand tonka bean, which is kind of rich and caramelized. The draw is excellent. You have a very refined airflow, which should open up nicely and give you a full smoking experience. As for the flavors, as you can see, I was quite taken aback, so I'm really looking forward to lighting this up. So here I am, well into the first third. As you can see, there's some waviness in the burn line, and the ash keeps splitting at the end. It plopped off earlier at the beginning, but it's continuing to split like this, which is a little bit of a shame, but otherwise, in terms of flavor, it is a wonderfully complex smoke. You're looking at a whole rich bouquet of nuances, and some of which I'm struggling to identify. That there's just every puff you discover a little bit more, and then you retrohale, and then it gives you another facet of the smoke. It's very impressive. It's overall quite caramelized. You could almost compare it to maybe a very old rum or a scotch, or even ratafia, which is a French beverage that I really enjoy. And there's also a soil note that reminds you of nutrient-rich, dense soil, almost, I don't want to say it, volcanic soil, but that would be too much of an association that I'd be making knowing where the cigar is from, which probably isn't a testament to blind tasting. Nevertheless, it is very reminiscent of soil. It's damp. It's not like the terracotta soil that you get from a Cuban cigar. It's the polar opposite. And then we have an agarwood note. Agarwood, also known as oud, is a resin that produces almost vanilla, musky smell. It's very complex. So it can also be associated with tobacco. It's used a lot in perfumery. And overall, we have this resinous, this rich and flavoursome bouquet. It's not strong. It's not overwhelming or full-bodied just yet, but it is full of subtle nuances of flavour. I feel like I've said a lot without not saying much. Nevertheless, this is quite an experience so far, and I'm really looking forward to getting to the second third. So I'm at about the halfway point here, more or less. And as you can see, the ash, now that it stopped splitting, is very strong, but the burn line is quite wavy, to say the least. Otherwise, it seems to be performing okay. I think I'm going to take this ash off because it looks like it's about to fall off. In terms of flavor profile, so there was a metallic note in the first third that I didn't mention, and I thought that it was going to come to fruition. It was going to be a lot more discernible in the second third, and it was going to really be a precursor to the next moment in the cigar. However, I was surprised to find that we went in an entirely different direction. Instead of going more towards these mineral, these metallic notes, this caramelized profile, instead we're going towards a much more gourmand, a much heavier and robust flavor. Here it is dominated by freshly roasted espresso beans. This coffee note kind of envelops the palate, and then we also have a hint of licorice that just offers a little bit of sweetness, but it's also quite bitter. There is still a sense of caramelized flavor, and it does get quite meaty at times as well. There's this savory profile too. And then very soon into the cigar, I'm quite surprised it would appear just in the second third, we're starting to get charred oak, which is something you would tend to experience in a final third of a cigar. That being said though, in terms of body, it's still kind of on the medium to full range, but it isn't overwhelming whatsoever. Still very easy to smoke. Right now I'm smoking it in the mid-afternoon. I had lunch not long ago and I'm glad I did. This on an empty stomach would have been challenging, but it's quite approachable. It's still overall resinous, but where it was leaning towards more sweet flavors in the first third, now we're looking at something, as I mentioned, which is going to be a bit more savory, but still quite thick and lush on your palate. Here I am well into the final third. The burn sadly needed touching up, but we have some excellent ash that's just holding on there. It doesn't want to come off. I'm going to try and, oof, that was tough. So yeah, excellent construction in that regard. In terms of flavor profile, we've moved away from this really nuanced gourmand expression, and it has transitioned to a more rounded, earthier profile that is amplified by some Basque Espelette pepper, a type of chili pepper that is known for its slight sweetness, but is also still quite spicy. And you do get some of this sweetness at the tip of the tongue. Nevertheless, you're going to get mostly some charred oak, as was experienced in the second third, as well as some rich cacao. It's still earthy, still quite rich in flavor, but a little bit more subdued than the second third. The overall complexity of the cigar is nothing short of immersive. You're going to get a rich bouquet of flavors throughout each third. The mouthfeel remains creamy and thick, but not overbearingly heavy on the palate. It's nice and smooth, it's enveloping, but it doesn't really overpower you. Meanwhile, the astringency and stimulation on the palate are going to be both very balanced. You're not going to have any excessive stimulation anywhere in the mouth. Moving on to the life cycle. Now this was quite interesting. Indeed, the first third starts off as metallic nuance with a variety of caramelized notes, some muskiness as well. The second third is going to be licorice, espresso, really verbose, gourmand expressions. And then once you're in the final third, it sort of becomes a little bit more subdued. So you do have this quite a roller coaster of a journey going from start to finish. Speaking of which, the finish is nice, long, and lingering on the palate. It's going to last there for quite a while. Consider enjoying the nub with a palate cleanser such as espresso coffee, which is going to help extend some of those flavors as well. We'll talk about that in the pairings in just a minute. And the residual scent in the room for such a full and rich cigar isn't at all overpowering. It isn't oppressive in any way. It's quite pleasant. As for the burn and construction of the cigar, the airflow is ideal all the way through. You do have an excellent draw. The temperature is nice and cool. It doesn't heat up as you smoke. However, the angle of the burn can get quite wavy. It wasn't straight at any point on this particular sample. However, I invite you to look at the final written review in the description below after I've sampled a couple more cigars just to see how it fares. And then the ash backbone is nice and strong. As you can see, it holds on well. Now, apart from a slight issue at the beginning where it was splitting away, after that, there weren't any issues. So I imagine the next samples may fare better than this, and it should have a decent backbone. And next, we're going to talk about the overall experience of the cigar. And indeed, in keeping with the whole Alma range, it has 3 different bands. And in this case, it features a bright red color, which is evocative of the fiery volcano concept that the brand wanted to create. The main band is large and proud, and because it takes a fair bit of real estate on the cigar, you have a tertiary band on the back that lets you keep some ornamentation while you finish the cigar. I'm quite fond of having 3 bands on the cigar. I don't mind it. I don't find it too ostentatious. And of course, we have here as well this almost smooth, ribbony texture of a footband, and that helps protect the cigar while in transit, and it gives you some extra decoration. I'm quite fond of the style. I do find it attractive, and that then leads me onto the box. Now, the box, I don't have it on me, but if you look in the final written review, you'll see some pictures. What I love about the Alma boxes that Plasencia make is that they often come with a detachable ashtray. This, in this case, is a nice bright red color, which has been hand painted and made out of wood with a metal plate in the center, so when you put the ash, it doesn't damage the wood of the cigar. It's a 10-count cigar box, and it looks quite in keeping with the style of the cigar, this sort of rustic aesthetic, but at the same time is going to be elegant and premium in feel. As for the value of the cigar, you're looking at about $16 for a single, which some people may believe is quite pricey, but I feel given that the blend in the cigar and the experience that it provides does offer you good value for money. If you were to buy an entire box, you'd be looking at about $150, so you can knock off $1 on each of the price of those cigars, and you may also get an ashtray with it, so it gives you extra value there. Finally, in terms of occasion, although this is a cigar that has an overall rustic aesthetic and appearance, it does lend itself quite well to more formal occasions. This is certainly something that you could enjoy at an exclusive club. If you were to take this to a cigar lounge, for example, given that it's going to be frequented by people who are quite familiar with cigars, they're going to certainly appreciate and realize that you have refined taste, sir. But it can be something that you can enjoy in the mid to late evening, even late at night, alongside your favorite libation. Consider this as a cigar for some quiet contemplation alone, or even with a close friend that you'd love to catch up with. But here at the bottom right-hand corner, we have a couple of pairing suggestions. They're not scored. As I said, this is more of a thought exercise. So firstly, this is a great cigar as a digestif that you could have following a large meal, like and presumably a dinner. You could certainly have it after, for example, a ribeye steak that has been grilled with some herbs, some spices. And this meatiness can be extended when you have the cigar afterwards, perhaps with a cognac or a libation of your choice, which I'll mention in just a second. Alternatively, it's a great choice for after a roast dinner, especially one with all the trimmings, gravy, roast potatoes, some Yorkshire pudding. This would certainly bring out that kind of richness and that opulence of the meal. And then if you want to add some extra creaminess into your palate, why not accompany it with some dark chocolate? Next, in terms of beverages, so I'm quite torn between an Islay or a Highland single malt. Indeed, it would go very well with a well-aged Scotch whiskey. If you like peatiness and you like the smokiness of an Islay single malt, then certainly consider it with the cigar, but bear in mind that peatiness may actually start to impart too much of its flavor onto your palate, and it may take something away from the cigar. So if you prefer something a little bit more playful and neutral, then go for a Highland. Alternatively, you could go for, of course, a Fine Champagne cognac, or good quality cognac that is going to be rich in character and have a nice leathery amber profile. That would go quite well here. Or you could go for, of course, Naneo rum. Specifically, I think a Zacapa 23 would be a great choice. Reinhardt reviewed that particular rum not too long ago. You can watch the video up here or in the description below, where we also have a link. And finally, in terms of coffee, an espresso would be great. Although it's going to be a little bit short to enjoy with this cigar, consider serving yourself consider serving yourself an espresso when you're about to finish the cigar, especially when you're around the nub here, so you can really help marry those flavors, maybe even cleanse the palate afterwards. Anyway, that's all from me today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any questions about the Alma del Fuego, or if you have any experiences that you wish to share. Till our next video, why don't you check out bespokeunit.com and see all the other men's lifestyle subjects that we cover. I'm sure that there'll be something that you will love.